So here we have the heroes for the City of the Ancients box set, and we'll go ahead and pull them out of the bag. And you can see here we have the Saloon Girl, who's one piece. We have the U.S. Marshal, who's got his body, his hat, and his gun. We have the Bandito, who's got his body and his sombrero. And then we have the Gunslinger, that has his body, his hat, and his two pistol arms. So we'll go ahead and clip these guys off the sprue, and again you always want to use the flat edge of the clippers right up against the figure. So we'll do the Saloon Girl first. And whenever you're clipping models like this, you should always be careful not to accidentally clip off any little pegs they might have to hold on a hat or a hand or an arm or anything like that. Saloon Girl's one piece, so we'll just set her off to the side. And we'll do the U.S. Marshal next. And you can see he's got a little peg on his head, so we're just going to be careful not to accidentally trim that off. And that's where his hat attaches. And the U.S. Marshal is pretty cool. He's kind of like a tank type character, and he has a shotgun which can be extraordinarily powerful, but he only gets one shot a turn, so you kind of have to make it count. Alright, a little extra bit of sprue off his hat. And whenever I'm putting these guys together, I'll put them in little piles of all the pieces for a single character, so that I don't confuse what parts go with which guy. Alright, there's the Bandito and his really cool sombrero. One nice thing about having the hats separate from the figures is that you can actually mix and match and put a sombrero on your Gunslinger or whatever else you think would be cool. Switch their hats around. There's the body of the Gunslinger, and then his gun holding arm, or his gun slinging arm as the case may be, and then we have his hat, and his gun holding arm, gun steadying. Alright, so that is the pieces. We'll go ahead and put that sprue off to the side. And we'll look at the Saloon Girl first. Since she's only a single piece, we'll go ahead and glue her to a base. We can use either plastic cement or super glue. We'll use super glue in this case. Put a little bit on the bottom of each of her feet. And if you ever feel like you get too much glue, you can always just dab a little bit off on a napkin or paper towel. And we'll just put her right on the center of her base there. Hold her in place for a second. And she's ready to go. Now we'll look at the Bandito next. And you can see that each of the little pegs usually has a particular direction that it goes. So you can find the way that the piece fits on snugly. And then you can put a little bit of glue on the peg and just pop the hat right on. If you ever have trouble finding it, you can just rotate it until it goes on. Alright, we'll put a little glue on the bottom of his feet. Put him on the base, centered. Hold him in place for a second so that he steadies. Gets a chance to attach. And slide him off to the side. Alright, now we'll look at the U.S. Marshal here. Now you'll notice that the U.S. Marshal has kind of a long connection pin on his wrist, and that goes into the back of his arm there so that his gun can rest on his shoulders. So we'll put a little bit of glue on his wrist and wipe off if we get any extra, and then put it so that his hand is facing forward and his gun rests on his shoulders. Just like that. And then his hat, you can see the little notch in the peg tells you which direction it goes. So a little bit of glue, and we'll just slide his hat right on. Alright, and then a little glue on the bottom of his feet, and he's going to go right on his base. We'll just hold him in place for a second while he dries. And set him off to the side there. Alright, and last but not least we have the Gunslinger. So again, we'll dry fit the hat so we can see the direction it needs to go based on the shape of the peg. It's going to be like that. So we'll go ahead and put a little bit of glue on there and attach his hat. That fits nice and clean on there. Now with the Gunslinger's arms, he actually has 2 arms that connect at the shoulders, and then there's a little slot in the gun arm where the steadying hand connects. So for this one, I'm actually going to use the plastic cement because it stays loose a little bit longer, so it gives me a little more wiggle room to decide how I want to adjust him after the parts are in place. So we'll put the gun hand on there, and then we'll put the steadying arm on, and I'll put a little dab of glue, whoops, excuse me, put a little dab of glue on the hole in the wrist so that when I push the arms together, they cleanly fit. Okay, there you go, and put that together. Now because it's plastic cement, I actually have the leeway to shift this around and get the pieces together so that he's fully holding his gun out in front of him. And then I can use that super glue to put a little on the bottom of his feet and attach him to his base. We'll just hold him in place there for a second to let him dry a little bit. And there we have our 4 heroes ready to take on all manner of darkness.